Hi, this is Gurasi Singh, and you're listening to my Thick Accent podcast. Hey, you. This is Gurasi's from the post production side. So, in this episode, me and my guest have used some acronyms and abbreviations which are really common amongst the immigrant community. So, if you are not aware of any of these, I have created an audio glossary section in the show notes just for you. Now, back to the episode. Whenever we move away from our home country, we find ourselves adjusting into an absolutely new world. And things can get a little difficult at times. And I'm saying that from my personal experience. There are days when you crave for a guide or a mentor who can just sit with you, analyze with you and help you choose your next steps. You also look for a community where you can feel belong. Well, my guest today is the founder of one such community called the Fellow International Students. He came to Canada in 2014 as an international student himself, who just stumbled upon the supply chain management program and now has more than 5 years of experience in the industry and also teaches in the same college he graduated from. Let's hear more from him about his journey from being a student to preparing students for the world. Please welcome Arjun Kshetty.
Hi, Gursis. Thank you very much for inviting me to this podcast, and I'm very excited to be here.
Okay, so Arjun, I always ask my guests to share with us about the time they spent in their home country. Please tell us, where are you from, what did you study, and what were you doing before you immigrated?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm actually from Bangalore, India. To be very precise, you would have or heard about Kolar Goldfields, and it's 100 kilometers away from Bangalore. I
Okay.
grew up over there. I did my 12th until then, and I graduated from there, and I moved to Bangalore for my BCom. And I did 3 years of BCom. Right after my BCom, I actually got a job opportunity in a company called Wells Fargo. It's an US based bank.
Mhm.
Yeah, I mean, it's a quite exciting journey. Did that for 1 year, and then again, thought of immigrating to Canada and moved here. Overall, it's an very great experience. Being in India with family, with friends, food, a lot of culture and whatnot. So yeah, a typical international student journey for sure.
So what actually brought you to Canada and how was the process for you? Like for instance, for me, the visa process, my visa took like forever to come. I remember I even booked my tickets and my visa didn't arrive. I was so confident it will come. I booked my tickets already and it didn't arrive. And when it finally came, I booked my tickets for more than double the amount I had initially spent. So did you have any similar experiences or how was it like for you?
Yeah, absolutely. It's a very good question. So, in fact, when I told that I'm actually born in a place called Kolar, it's 100 kilometers away from Bangalore. It's a very small town where you have very limited resources, very limited opportunities, and you tend to you tend to feel like doing a lot of things, extracurricular activities, better education system, better health, etc. But those things were not really catered or provided, which actually pushed me to come out of that particular small town and get into a bigger place like Bangalore to do my higher education.
Hmm.
And that drive never stopped me from staying back at a place like Bangalore, because Bangalore is a beautiful city. You have a lot of opportunities, great companies, great food, great money. Everything is well catered in Bangalore. And frankly speaking, other than traffic and climate, you should not be complaining anything else over there. But the drive that I belong to some higher purpose, or I want to achieve certain things and whatnot, which allowed me to think outside of the box. And right after my BCom, I did get a very nice job at Wells Fargo. It was a 9 to 5 gig. I got selected through campus selection. It was awesome. However, within 1 year, I figured out that my seniors, who were like 5 years, 10 years in the company, were really not at the place where I want to be in my life.
Mm.
Whether it might be in terms of money, or in terms of their health, in terms of their stress levels, their career, etc., etc. And that kind of triggered me thinking, getting into a thought process like, if I continue to do the same thing, what they are telling me, and my life is going to be like that, do I really want that life? And the answer was absolutely no. And that's when I started thinking about I should do something else in my life.
Mhm.
Having a BCom, my parents and my family were like, do chartered accountancy, CFA, etc., etc. And I did take a look at those professional programs. Within 2 to 3 months, I figured out that my skill set or my abilities were not good enough to crack certain professional exams like that. And I got into MBA programs. I looked into all the qualifications and the money required. And somewhere I felt that it was not really worth the investment to do an MBA in India with $30,000, $40,000, and also going through a lot of competitive exams and not knowing whether I would get a seat, which allowed me to think about abroad education. And it was 2014. Me and my bunch of friends, we started going to different consultancies, identifying countries are offering better opportunities. And that time, US was pretty tough. US was not giving any work permits, and it was rejecting student visas and whatnot. And Australia had a different challenge where immigrants were facing racism
Yeah.
issues, and parents were not happy to send kids to Australia that time. And Canada was very welcoming and one of the viable opportunity. And based on my credentials and my ability, Canada was a very straightforward and smooth journey to transition from India to
Mm.
Canada. I just had to write IELTS. Multiple colleges accepted my 60% aggregate in BCom, and 6.5 in IELTS was good enough to get into one of the community colleges here. But obviously, my English was so poor, I had to really struggle and almost wrote IELTS for 4 times to get that 6.5 score. It
Really?
was not an, yes, indeed. Yeah, it was not a smooth ride. But however, like, I did not give up, and the dream of going abroad and whatnot, it took me like 6 to 8 months to cope up with that particular transition.
Okay, so where did that hustler mindset came from? And you also talked about, being there for the higher purpose. Where did that come from? Did you have like a conversation with somebody from a mentor, or it was like just the introspection?
So it's a combination of all of it. So when I was actually living in my hometown, I did not have a lot of opportunity for myself, like very limited education systems. There's no extracurricular activities. There was no room for growth and development. The internet was not really that big. We had a computer in the home
Hmm.
with 1 GB of internet. All you can do is email and a little bit of, I think even Chrome was not really up to that mark, Internet Explorer and whatnot. So there was not much growth. And the moment I was placed in Bangalore and there were so many opportunities available in and around me, I was like, no, I have to grab it. So far I was complaining that there's no opportunities, but now there's an opportunity. I can't let that go. I can't give up too quick. Point number one. Point number two, when I studied BCom in Bangalore, a lot of my classmates started their chartered accountancy journey in the first
Hmm.
year. By the time they came to the third year, they completed their chartered accountancy, and they started getting pretty nice packages in job. And then I was comparing myself that throughout this time I was just playing around and having fun, going out, doing night outs and partying and enjoying and having girlfriends and etc.,
Hmm.
etc. On the flip side, there are certain people who invested their time into education like this and they achieved something remarkable.
Hmm. So that's exactly that slight difference in it makes a big difference, right?
Yeah, absolutely. The slight edge or the compound effect, because every single day after school, I used to go out and have fun with friends, but they were going to coaching classes and invest their time into studying chartered accountancy because they were ready to pay the price. And then I was already like, what, 21 years old. And I told myself, I've had enough of fun. I bluffed around about myself to my parents, to everybody, that I'm doing okay. Don't have to worry about it. Even though I had a good job, which was like, got through campus
Hmm.
selection and whatnot. I took that as a personal challenge, and I just told myself that one single English exam should not stop me from achieving my dreams and goals. And that was more of a go issue. I wrote once, twice, thrice. My consultant was like, "Man, what's wrong with this guy? So many people will give up, but this guy is not giving up." and whatsoever, like, whatever the reason, I did not get the right marks, but I worked hard until I got it. And once I got it, it was a pretty straightforward thing, because 2014, I don't think there was a lot of competition for international education in Canada. The moment you apply, colleges were giving the offer letters, and obviously the flight ticket was expensive. I paid like $2,000 that time, and yeah, I landed into Canada.
Okay, so now you are here. You landed here. Do you remember your first day? What was going on in your mind?
So again, like, first day, a lot of nervousness. I had one friend who actually came to IELTS coaching class along with me, who
Mhm.
got the visa 4 months before. So that was the only guy whom I knew. And again, in 2014, the WhatsApp was not up to that mark. There was no Zoom calls. YouTube, barely people were producing
Yeah.
content. I feel like I'm very old, but I'm just saying 2014 is like just 8 9 years
Yeah.
back. Sorry, 7 8 years back. So I actually knew him, and he already settled down. When I say, he got a job, part-time job, and he already had his home. And he did told me that, what, I have a place at my house. I can absolutely give you that spot.
Okay.
So that was one of the that confidence. Okay, somebody's there, they're going to take care of me and whatnot. I landed with two suitcases. I think it's September. It was not really that cold, but we're just entering winter. And the moment I entered, there was an Sardarji who picked us up in a limousine.
Okay.
So I was like, okay, some familiarity, right? It's like, okay, I'm in a new country, but there's some sort of familiarity. And he was very warmth, and he welcomed me, and he's like, don't worry about it. We all come as an immigrants. And he boosted my morale in the very first interaction. And then he dropped me to one of the place in Mississauga. We had a 1 week of temporary accommodation over there, and then I moved to North York.
Okay, I'm actually so glad to hear that you had like a familiar person in the new country, because I do hear stories of people being absolutely lost and did not have the very good first experiences. And you did mention about having a place to go and stay for the night. That makes a huge difference, because I've spoken to people, including myself. My own personal experience was I was moving places every new week. I did not get a house until my second month in Canada. But, anyways, and if I'm not wrong, Seneca was never even your first option to go to the college, right? It was not even on the list. So, how did that happen?
That's a very transforming journey, actually. I got an opportunity in a college called St. Clair in Windsor.
Vincent,
It's
okay.
second oldest college in Canada, international business management. Beautiful college. When I went there, the crowd was completely domestic crowd. And when I was talking to the program coordinator, or maybe the international student administration department, and they were telling me that only 70 international students are there in this college. Only 70. So that means the exposure was very good for me to actually associate with the domestic students and learn from them, and understand that culture and etc. But however, the friend who actually helped me to come to Canada, he was studying in a college called St. Lawrence Alpha. It's in Scarborough. And he told, no, there's nothing in Windsor, there's no jobs, part-time jobs. And his focus was more towards, working in a part-time job, making money, paying his fees.
Sure.
But I already paid 2 semesters fees. My objective was not that, but I did not know why he was saying. But he prepared me very well in Toronto to go to Windsor and get my money back from Windsor. And the program coordinators, I think the program coordinators, and the I think dean of the dean of the college, everybody sat down, tried to explain me so many things, but I was so brainwashed with this guy. I nothing went into my mind. I somewhere felt that they were selling me something which I should not be buying. And default, I went with one mindset that I don't need the seat, and I took the money back, and I lost around like what, 2000 $3000 in that.
Oh.
And then he got me a seat into a college called St. Lawrence Alpha, where you have 100% international students.
Hmm.
And it was just a two floors building, where no proper infrastructure, etc., etc. and all of the it's just a 2 days college, and everybody's focus was just to work in a part-time job and pay their fees.
Okay. And I think everybody should be blessed with such kind of friend who put you on the right track, you would say, so to say.
I don't think it's a right track because if at all I was in St. Clair, that would be a right track because my objective was not to work hard and pay the fees. So I would say it was a wrong mentorship. I was succumbed to it, and then I came to this college and I started hating it every single day because I was the only guy who's trying to study and gain some knowledge, but rest of the people were just showing up to get their marks done and just graduate from there and whatnot. And this was the college where most of the people who actually took money backs from different colleges, bigger colleges, and then moving here. And one sad thing what happens is whenever I go to that college every single day, every single time I go to that college, I actually pass through Seneca College in bus. So until then, I had no idea what is Seneca and etc. So what happens is the moment I get into a bus, there's a nice quality crowd, like domestic students, and nice quality crowd gets into that bus. And the moment Seneca comes in, the whole bus gets out of the bus, and an empty bus goes to the next stop where I get down to go to that college. So I did that for 6 months to 8 months. I was telling like, man, God, why am I not in this college? Why am I in that college?
Yeah, I think that happens. That I've seen that pattern so much in international students that they come in an absolutely different college and then they take their money back. Usually, which they never get the whole money, they get like a portion of it, and then they move to different places. And see, that really affects so much their financial situation, and even moving is a hassle. It's not an easy job, and and I think that people should understand that be a little prepared and do like a thorough research before landing so that you are not lost when you arrive in Canada.
Absolutely, absolutely. And just to add there, Gurses, that actually triggered me to look for Seneca College. Even I was not really sure what program, uh, because even though I wrote IELTS for 4 times, I did not get that combination of 6.5. So I came to Canada with 6.0,
Okay.
with everything more than 6 and whatnot. So Seneca really wanted that 6.5. When I went to Seneca, they were like straightforward. They rejected. They told either you get a 6.5 or you write an English exam, which where I couldn't crack that as well when they kept the English exam.
Mhm.
But I did not give up. Maybe 2 months I went to administration department. I networked over there. I spoke to a lot of people. I spoke to professors. I told I love this program, supply chain management. I really need it and whatnot. And they actually saw my commitment and determination to study there, and they made an exemption and gave an opportunity to study there.
That is awesome. So my friends and my teachers I was in contact with back in India, they always used to ask me about the difference in the teaching methods or just in the whole curriculum, from our own country. So was there something that you disliked or liked about the culture here, the curriculum basically here?
So I don't want to comment, or I don't want to say whether I liked it or disliked it. At this moment, if I see, I think it's a good thing, the curriculum or the way of teaching, how it happens right now in Canada. Because in India, all I was doing is just show up in class here and there, and all I have to do is study 1, 2, or maybe 1 week before the final exams and try to memorize as much as possible from my books, and then just copy paste the same thing in exams, and still was able to get 70% of aggregating my BCom and whatnot. But whereas what Seneca did to me or what Canadian education did to me is become alert from the get go. The moment I got
Hmm.
started in the very first class, they gave me a 5% assignment where I got 1 out of 5, which shook me up, saying that, oh man, I put in effort, I did it, but I got one. That means it's a fail. In the very first day I failed in this class, so that awakened me to take it seriously, saying that it's not like I study, I mean I just show up and then write an exam and pass the program. No, I need to really show up,
Mhm.
engage and perform on everyday basis to survive. Forget about thriving, just to survive in this kind of course. That actually opened up a different dimension in me and proved that if I work hard, even I can learn, I can achieve.
Absolutely, I can back that each and every word that you have said. It's exactly what happened with me as well. Also, I love the fact that it's not that you have to buy those heavy books and take it to to your classes, it's all about on the presentations, which makes a huge difference. It actually becomes more interactive.
Yeah.
So let's pivot towards the multiple jobs that you have done, Arjun, before you actually got your big break, so to say, for Sobeys. And for the people who don't know Sobeys, it's the Arjun. Maybe you can explain it better. What is Sobeys?
Yeah, I mean, Sobeys is the big bazaar in India, or maybe like any other Reliance Fresh or Smarts or the more any other superstore. Sobeys is the second largest retail chain in Canada. The first is Loblaws, second is Sobeys, and third comes Walmart.
Hmm.
So I did work in Walmart and Sobeys as well. So yeah, Sobeys is second largest retail chain. You get all the groceries, your daily commodities, and etc.
So way before Sobeys, the very first job you did was in a bakery. You were at the back end, if I'm not wrong. So how did you get that job, and how was that experience like?
So again, like I came up with GIC to Canada,
Sure.
and that time the GIC was they were releasing $2,000 every 2 months once. That's the plan was okay. And frankly speaking, $1,000 on a monthly basis was good enough for me to stay because I was paying like $300 rent, and bus pass was like $90, and phone bill was like $40, and etc. etc. I was barely need any money, but my roommates were working in the jobs, and that compelled me to get into a part-time job as well. And one of my roommate told there is an agency, you just have to register yourself, and whenever they need work, they would actually uh, call you. And I registered to one of the agency, and they told me that there is an bakery where you need a general labor. I had no idea how the bakeries work because coming from India, I think bakery is like a roadside bakery where you eat like all the bun and cakes and whatnot. And then they told you need to have a safety shoes. I borrowed the safety shoes from my friend, and I had to travel 1 hour 45 minutes in winter to there. And the shift starts at 7 o'clock in the morning. I got down from the railway station, the subway station, maybe 15 minutes before, and there was close to 20 minutes walk to that bakery because it's an industrial area where the buses don't go and whatnot. And obviously, it's not a straightforward route, so you need to check the Google and then figure out this way, that way, and whatnot. So walking with Google is not the easiest thing, and that too minus 20. And then I went to that place and I see a closed building. There's no opening anywhere whatsoever. I was like, dude, I reached the place, I'm unable to do it, and nobody's there to talk, nobody's there to help. And I keep go and knock every door over there, and finally figured out there was a bell, and I press the bell, and there's a big iron door got opened up, and there's a guy comes in and it's like, it's already 7:10. You're supposed to come here at 7 o'clock. I told I'm here for the first time. Please pardon me. Is like because coming from India, I always like think okay if you're new, you don't know, they kind of allow it, but here no, it doesn't matter whether you're new or you don't know, you got to figure out things and you ought to be on time.
Well, welcome to Canada.
Exactly, that was the first thing, and he actually took me in and he gave me a blue gown because it's a food processing bakery. So he gave me a blue gown and mask and hair mask and gloves. I wore everything, and then I took a selfie. I took a selfie. I was like, okay, man, this is something new, and I thought I don't know what the heck I'm gonna do. He actually put me in front of a very big oven. All I have to do is there'll be frozen donuts and muffins and all these packed bakery stuff would be coming in. I have to take from a tray and then place it into the oven, and the oven will take it inside. And I don't know how what was the heat degree and whatnot. There's this big exhausters and fans, which was blowing the air against us, so that way we are not really exhausted and whatnot. But I've never been in that kind of situation, Gurses. It was only 3 hours. I fainted in that particular thing.
Wow.
And yeah, I did that for almost like a week, even though I fainted. The first day, they looked at my capacity and they're like, okay, we can't put you in front of the oven. We would give you another spot. They shifted me to another spot, and when I spoke this to my parents, they're like, no, don't worry about it, just quit the job. And then I moved out from there. Right after that, I got another role in Pizza, and they actually hired me saying that you're a cashier. I was so excited because all my roommates who came almost 6 7 months back, they were working in dishwashing and labor jobs.
Okay.
I felt confident saying that, oh, I'm just new in the country, but I got a cashier role and you're like dishwasher, and etc. But that ego did not stay for a long time, because the very first day they made me clean the washrooms in Pizza. So then I figured out that here they hire you with one name, but they make sure that you do everything.
Oh yeah, absolutely. That this is so true. And you also did a job as a security job, right? And you did that job for the longest, if around like 1.5 years. What about that job stuck with you?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, like, with all these back and forth, whether factory or whether pizza, and I also worked in multiple other call centers. I also worked in a call center for 2 months. That was another horrific story where I had to call them, and I think you are also worked in a forum research, if I'm not wrong.
Exactly.
Call people and take the research. So I heard about security. I was not really confident. Again, 2014, 15, lot of stereotypes coming from India. If you tell somebody in India that you're working as a security guard in Canada, there's a lot of judgments and whatnot. But I did see some people taking it, and I actually took it for event security, and I got the license and I got the job as well. The best part was I started loving it. The event security was very good. Then eventually I got into condominiums and whatnot. So to sum it up, in my whole part-time experience in Canada, I would say security guard was one of the best jobs I could do, because it does not require a lot of physical movement, ability, stress. You will have a lot of time for yourself. Nobody would monitor you. In fact, you can do your assignments while doing security job.
Yeah. So Arjun, like you said, these survival jobs does make you strong. It instilled that patience in you. Was that something that has stayed with you up until today from a particular job or just overall from all the jobs?
That's a great point, Gursis. In fact, I would never argue with any people in restaurant. I would not point fingers. I would not disrespect. I would not tell the food tastes bad, replace the food. Because working in the restaurants, I totally understand the struggle what an individual go through in the backside. So I'm not just talking about a restaurant, even it might be a customer service. For example, when somebody calls me to sell something in a call center environment, a lot of people actually abuse and keep the phone call. I'll
Exactly.
be very polite. I'll be very polite, and I encourage them and I tell them you're doing an amazing job, but however, I don't want anything else, and I just cut the call right there. I try to encourage them and whatnot. So one thing which kind of changed my perspective is being in their shoes. Like in the service industry, whenever I'm getting a bad service, I'll be politely disregarding it rather than bashing them and putting them down and whatnot, because they go through a lot of things like this. So that's one thing which actually changed my perception.
I can totally agree to that. I would say that has happened with me as well. My perspective towards the service industry has changed so much. I started respecting them, and even the forum research job, the customer service job that you mentioned, at the same I do now. Whenever I get a call, I tell them politely, "Hey, I'm not available right now. You can call me later on," rather than just hanging up on them. Moving on, I really want to pivot towards this amazing community that you have built, fellow international students. Tell me everything about it, the inception of this, why you felt the need to have such a community, and when did it come into action?
Absolutely. So when I actually graduated, or when I'm about to graduate, I really figured out the need of networking. Really figured out the need that somebody should be there who's already at a place where you are, who have the fruit on the tree, guiding us and coaching us. So that way we can avoid some of the mistakes and actually shrink the time of moving towards the success path. Because you might have a lot of energy, you might have a lot of resources, but if you don't know whether you're doing something right or wrong, you tend to lose a lot of time at your end. And also the disappointment kicks in, and if you're not really resilient, there are chances that you give up as well. So I started networking a lot, and I personally found a mentor after 6, 7, 8 months who actually changed my whole life for better, giving me guidance, not just in terms of job, but just putting a pat on my back, telling that, you know what, Arjun, I believe in you. All I was looking for somebody is, you know what, Arjun, whatever you're doing is right. I believe in you. Keep pushing. That was it. That was mentorship for me, because my friends who were with me did not really have the results what I was looking for, and they were also going through the same struggles. So there was more of two people talking about same frustration, but not solving anything and whatnot. So that actually got stuck into my mind, and I was like, okay, if somebody can help me to transform my life for better, where I was able to get good jobs, secure my careers, start my family, start living in better places, drive better cars, etc., etc. It's all because somebody took the 20 minutes time from their life, poured into me to give me the right direction, and put a pat on my back, telling that, you know what, Arjun, you're doing the right things. Keep continue, and here are the certain things you need to navigate and troubleshoot and etc. So that actually triggered me to a place where why don't I build a community where we provide an opportunity, networking opportunity, or a mentorship opportunity for international students. Obviously, we might not able to address everybody at this moment as we are talking courses. Right now, we have around 600 to 700,000 active international students available in Canada. And unfortunately, not everybody are getting the jobs, not everybody are getting the mentors. People are choosing too many different ways to just to survive. Forget about thriving, just to survive. People are choosing multiple ways. All I wanted to do is give that hope for as many as people as possible by showcasing the success of other fellow international students who went through the same journey. So that way, people can start believing that, you know what, if I do whatever I'm doing, there is light at the end of the tunnel. So fellow international students started off very small. All we did is we did a small networking event where like 30 people came in, and then we had a couple more international students who graduated, and
And
they
this
can
was in 2017, right?
2017-ish, yeah, 2017-ish, in the party room in my condo. Pulled in a couple of international students and also a couple of immigrants or international students who got jobs, who are working in nice companies, just to give them hope and Q&A session and whatnot. And that it continued to a place where pre-pandemic we had one networking event. We had around like 120 people in person.
Wow.
It was a 3-4 hours event where Q&A, and then after that networking session and whatnot, we wanted to really go forward the same way. But 2020 pandemic came in, and then we started doing it in Zoom. And we did another networking event on Zoom, and we had around 300 people showing up in Zoom. We had some of the great speakers like Nidhi Nagori, Dean Colaveri. All of these speakers came into the event, and they did talk about how to navigate your life in Canada and etc. So yeah, I mean, Fellow International Student is a non-profit organization. It is just about engaging people and providing that networking opportunities for people to uh, mingle, and also set an example for rest of the international students that yes, there are international students who are performing very well in their careers. It's just that you don't want to give up and you keep moving forward, and you'll be able to achieve whatever the things you're looking forward for.
I love that, Arjun. Whatever you have said, that the motto of this organization is just amazing because it makes a huge, huge difference to have a community where you feel belonged, and having those examples which kind of motivates you that hey, if they can do it, you can do it too. And seeing somebody from a similar background or with the immigrant mindset, seeing that if they can make it happen, you can make it happen as well. So if anybody, Arjun, wants to connect with you or connect with the fellow international students community, where they can reach out to you.
Yeah, absolutely. So we have an YouTube page called Fellow International Student, Instagram page, and then LinkedIn page. So we do produce a lot of content over there, success stories of international students who graduated and who are working in nice jobs and whatnot. Again, because of COVID, we could not really do a lot of networking events, but now COVID is done, and we have the ability to do a lot of networking events. And then we'll start sharing those networking events in the social media. So if somebody is willing to participate in a networking event in Canada, they can absolutely join and make some network over there.
So to all the international students listening this is the opportunity to be a part of a group that's like-minded and that's just going to help you grow and help you in your Canadian journey to become successful for sure. And I'm going to put the links to all the profiles and pages in the show notes. Feel free to check that. So, Arjun, we see that people always post about their first job that they have got, the first house that they have got, or first car, or everything good people post. And yes, it is changing. People are trying to be more authentic on social media. Tell me about a time where you were at your lowest in your life, and how did you pull yourself out of that, imposter syndrome pit, or sort of like a self-doubt pit, and what was the motive, what actually kept you motivated? Tell me about that.
Yeah, I mean, it's a great point, Gursis. And I mean, I was working as an supply chain professional for Walmart, making pretty good income. And it was an A category job. Everything was completely fantastic. A lot of people actually tend to get a job like that, and it's not easy to get into a company like Walmart, which is top company in supply chain. So let's say if you're working for Walmart in the supply chain in home office, it's like an IT guy working for Google or Microsoft and whatnot. So that's a comparison I can make of. And here comes the permanent residency 2019, and the points are 470 points. That's the requirement, and I'm already married. My wife is also in Canada here, and my wife don't have Canadian education or don't have 1 year of Canadian experience. So she was working, but she still just have 6 months of work experience. So my work permit is getting over in next 3 months, and my score is sitting at 430 points. And again, you would laugh. The thing which was between me and my PR was IELTS.
Really?
So I wrote IELTS for 4 times in Canada. I've come to Canada in India, and then I had to take up IELTS. I took IELTS 6 7 months before, but I had the constraint because my 420 score, if it had to move more than that, I had to get a score called 778.
Sure.
7 in reading, 7 in listening, sorry, 7.5 in listening, writing, and speaking, and etc. So what was happening with combination was not setting up. Like I was getting that 7.5, 7.5, but maybe 6.5 in reading or etc., which was taking out my score. So here I am working in a nice company. I'm earning. My wife is working, and we are paying the taxes. Uh, if somebody have to get a PR, we should be getting the PR. And because of we are contributing to the country, paying taxes and whatnot.
Absolutely.
So skill set is awesome. Just because we were not able to crack that 778 mark in IELTS, because not everybody's cup of tea is English, right? Like I can speak well, but maybe I have grammatical mistakes or spelling mistakes and etc.
I actually don't understand this, why we have to do IELTS for the second time. I never ever understood
Yeah.
that thing. Like, we have come to Canada, we have studied in the English language, we are surviving here, we are doing jobs in English. Why do you have to do it again? That makes no sense to me. I hope at some point they're going to change it.
And that to IELTS, and it's a very tricky thing. And there's only one organization which gives IELTS, and you can't even control them and whatnot. So thoughts were going on my mind is like, okay, let's say I don't get PR, I go back to India. People ask me, why did you come back? And I tell that I could not get a score in IELTS. That's why I came back. Can you imagine? And I'm 20, 26, 27 years old, going through this trauma, having settled down in my career and whatnot. But again, I did not give up. I wrote IELTS 3 times. First time, did not get it. Second time, I did not get it. Third time, I just had 60 days to go. If I don't get it, I'm going back to India. So that time I practiced. I got 9 in speaking, 8.5 in listening, 8.5 in reading, and 7 in writing. So that was the
Awesome.
highest score. I keep telling my wife, I keep telling my wife that now if you go to idp.com, they'll put my picture over there. So
I don't know about IDP, but I'm sure the people who are very new to the country are definitely gonna set you as an example. This is the true example of resilience, Arjun, and you are definitely inspiration for so many students. Thank you for sharing that. It really means a lot, and I'm sure it's gonna help so many students. And that phase of, one year is really tough when you are getting into the process of collecting points and getting the certain job. Sometimes you get the job which you just love, but you cannot continue
hmm,
that because it's not going to contribute into getting the permanent residency, and you have to leave that.
yeah.
And that's really saddening. But the good thing is things do fall in place. today, tomorrow, sometime they do. All they have to do
Yeah,
is put their head down and continue doing your things. Things definitely gets better for sure.
yeah. And one thing I want to add here is please don't chase PR. Please chase your career. PR would be a byproduct of chasing the career.
Absolutely. I always say that, have that certain tendency of excelling in your career rather than running after the PR. PR is going to come definitely towards you if you're just focusing on your career.
Exactly.
So, Arjun, having you on the show, how can we not talk about supply chain management? But before we dive deep into that, I would like to know, how did you get into supply chain management? The whole stumbling upon the supply chain management program. Tell me about that. And as per my research, you were never that good in mathematics growing up as well. So, tell me, how did you get into that?
I don't know from where you did the research, Gurses. You got all the facts right, and I think you know
I
more.
did have some good sources.
you you have more history about me than myself. Again, like the reason why I choose BCom is because I never liked English and math because I thought if I go to science I have to do a lot of mathematics and whatnot. But fortunately or unfortunately, right now every single day I work with numbers, and everything what I do is numbers right now in supply chain. Okay, obviously, I graduated from international business management, and there were multiple options. Either you can go with HR, marketing, finance, and whatnot. So my roommate told, you know what, Arjun, supply chain is growing, just take it. And this guy was one of the guy whom I was looking upon, because out of all the roommates he was a little bit more sensible. And then I was like, okay, if this guy is saying, maybe I should consider. And I wanted to get into Seneca, doesn't matter which program, and supply chain was available. And what I've heard is supply chain is a great program in Seneca. I was like, okay, I'm going there. And the moment I finished my first orientation, my confidence went up like crazy. The reason is, in the orientation, they did talk about how big is the industry and what kind of knowledge we will be getting through that program and what kind of companies would hire. So within 2-3 weeks of my journey in Seneca, I fell in love with supply chain and started intriguing me towards learning more about how things work. And I started really focusing, because one thing I was very clear that in Seneca, if I play around,
Mhm.
I have to pay the fees once again. So I understood that I have to put the blinders on and keep the distractions out of the wagon. And next 8 months, it's only school, study, school, study. So combination of all of it actually intrigued the interest towards supply chain.
So let's just get into the basics, in the layman language. What is supply chain management and why is it important?
Okay, supply chain management is organization or an department which takes care of movement of products from the raw material until the end or until the finished goods, or until the customer actually consumes the product. Movement of goods and services in a smoother way, in an efficient way, cost effective, without damaging, without creating any delays, right?
Mhm.
It might be like procuring, or it might be logistics, it might be transportation, it might be warehousing, it might be inventory management. Every business does require supply chain management. 5 years back, 10 years back, supply chain management was integrated under the
Mhm.
finance, but now it's out of finance and it has an unique, name for itself, like finance, marketing, HR, and supply chain department. Every company has it.
Okay.
Yeah, it might be an IT company or a distribution company, a retail company. Anywhere there is a movement of a product or a service, you need a supply chain team to take care of that.
So if I talk about a lot during the lockdown, Arjun, I'm sure you must be working back then as well. And how was Sobeys especially was dealing with with the supply with the high end demand, and then labor shortages and much more. What strategies did you guys adapted back then?
It's a great question, Gursis. Like if you kind of see why certain companies are number one and why certain companies are not at a place where they are, is because these big companies actually plan certain things way ahead.
Hmm.
And when I'm talking about Sobeys, I actually work for the e-commerce department of Sobeys, which was not in live business before pandemic. It was a new startup baby, right? So they were supposed to get started with the business in the month of June or July of 2020. And the moment they saw a pandemic was coming in, they actually preponed their launch, and they launched in April.
Hmm.
Think about it, like launching a business, an investment worth of 150 to 200 million dollar investment business, launching 3 4 months before. It takes guts. They went, they launched, and they capitalized the market, because not any other competitor was prepared in terms of providing that online grocery service. And the company was building it from past 2 years. Obviously, they did not expect COVID, but they were building it from past 2 years. So what are the things they did separately is, obviously, they paid the premium to the vendors, so that way the vendors became more accountable to the company. Point number one. Point number two is they have great systems to deal with data insights, which gave them better patterns to start executing the things in terms of buying, in terms of storing, in terms of supplying, and etc. So it's about capital investment and working with the data is what Sobeys did separate different, which was allowing them to thrive in this kind of an environment.
Okay, thank you, Arjun. Thank you for explaining that. It does gives like a good idea of supply chain management, and if anybody wants to get into, I think you are the guy to contact for sure. I'll mention again.
Absolutely.
I'll put the link to his profile, his contact in the show notes. Please feel free to check that. So, Arjun, I just want to pivot towards your job at Seneca. I remember you mentioning that networking happened to you, and that's definitely the biggest challenge for any newcomer that comes to Canada. Even though having like decades of experience in their home country, you cannot get a job until unless you connect with people. And tell me about that thing. How did that happen? Share with us.
Absolutely. I'll tell a small story because this story would answer the entire question what you asked. Obviously, everybody talks about networking, but people don't know how to practically network. And people think that they should only network when they need a job. Biggest
Hmm.
misconception. I feel this way. Dig your well before you're thirsty. Network before when you don't need an opportunity. Keep adding people into your list. You don't know when and whom is going to be helpful at what situation, right? So what happened? I started working with Walmart, and then I had my classmate was also working in Walmart. Her name is Melanie. Obviously, like she's from Jamaica, and when we studied in Seneca College, she was in a different section. I was in a different section. We never spoke in college. I know her. I saw her in different class, but she don't even know me that I was in the college or class or whatnot. So when I saw her in Walmart, I just did not ignore. I went, I introduced myself, and I spoke to her. I built that friendship. She was in a different cross-functional team, which was completely like there's no coincidence that we would meet and work with each other. But I put the deliberate effort to in terms of networking. Just imagine, she's my classmate. She's not my senior. She's not going to give me a job and whatnot. But the instinct of networking kicked in, and I started networking with her. Spoke to her, told her that I'm also studying in Seneca College and whatnot. So there was a little bit of relationship got created between us. And then I did see her posting as she went to Seneca to speak in the alumni panel, and she posted that on LinkedIn. The very next day, I went her and congratulated her, and I felt very happy about it and whatnot. And she right away told, "Hey, you know what? Seneca is actually looking for more alumni who can go and talk to IBM, International Business Management, and supply chain students.
Hmm.
Would you be interested?" Guess what I did? Opened my arms and I accepted the opportunity, because I'm a person who never rejects an opportunity no matter what. I actually take it. I try it. If it is for me, I keep it. If not, I just leave it right there and learn something from there. Without having any hesitation, I said yes. She actually connected me to one of the alumni coordinator in Seneca College, and he invited me for an in-person networking event. I did not know what to expect. I go there. There are like 220 people sitting over there, and there were four panelists, and I was one amongst them. After the panel, I recognized that most people were able to connect with me, because the rest of the panelists were not really international students, and maybe they graduated like 5 10 years back, versus I graduated very recently. I graduated in 2016 and the panel was in 2017 18. So within 2 years, I went there. So most people were able to connect with me. So the management saw that and they kept on inviting me every semester for new panel. I did that for almost like 2 3 years or something like that. Went to all the panels, and finally there came an opportunity. Seneca posted in a part-time professor role, and it was pretty straightforward. I didn't even have to apply for that officially. All I had to go and talk to the program coordinator and show my interest, and they were very happy to extend the opportunity, as they've already seen my work multiple times, and they were actually reaching out to me to come to college as a guest lecturer, and they were like, "We would love to
Wow.
give you this opportunity," and they gave me the opportunity, and I'm very grateful about it.
That is amazing. So to see this makes a huge difference. Just taking that first step of just reaching out to Melanie. The least she would have said is no, right? The answer is always no until and unless you don't ask. And I think that's my motto whole my life. I'll repeat that until and unless you don't ask, the answer is always no. So many
Absolutely.
congratulations to you, Arjun, once again for getting that opportunity. And I'm sure all the students who gonna study under you we'll be so thankful to you for all the experiences you're going to share and all the teachings you're going to you pass on to them. So many congratulations again. And Arjun, have you seen any difference in the mindset in the students since you teach them right now that back then when you were with your classmates, that what differences have you seen in the students mindset back then and now who are pursuing the supply chain management?
I see the students right now are way ahead in their mindset because of the YouTube Baba. So they've watched a lot of videos before coming to Canada. I feel they have much more awareness towards what to expect in this country than 2014 and 15, where there was no much of content about Canada, where we had to figure out a lot of things by ourselves. So I feel the students right now are very aware, and they have more better clarity towards what to expect out of this country. That's what I see the difference.
Okay, Arjun. So now we are heading into my favorite part of the show. I call it the final MTA talk. I'm going to ask you a couple of questions. You can answer them in one word or a sentence or however you feel like. The idea is just to know more about you. Okay.
Absolutely.
So, my first question is what advice would you give to Arjun who is in the initial months of landing in Canada? Hey, you. This is Gurisis again from the post production side. Before we hear what advice would Arjun give to his younger self, I want to request you to please subscribe to the podcast if you haven't as yet, or please leave a rating or a comment as well. Your feedback will just help me improve and will help me bring even better episodes for you all. You can also write to us at hello@mythickaccent.com. Now back to Arjun.
So I would actually tell him that you should associate with the right people and stop involving yourself into a lot of activities which is not going to be productive, like drinking, smoking, partying, etc., etc., and really focus on activities which would add value to your own life in terms of networking and increasing skills through different platforms.
Okay. So, Arjun, when are you most productive in a day?
After job.
Okay. And so is there something about you that you would like to change?
I think I'm an overthinker. When I say overthinker, I'm constantly thinking about something in my mind. I think that actually puts a lot of pressure on myself, which is not really needed. Maybe it's
Mhm.
not that big of a deal. If something I have to change myself, I would like to put a little bit lesser pressure on myself.
Okay. I'll take that advice as well for myself. So, Arjun, if you could be any animal in the world, what would it be?
I think I would be either an eagle. I mean, you asked for an animal, but I would like to tell it as a bird, or maybe a dolphin or an shark in the sea.
Why would you say that?
Eagle is because I like heights, and I get a different whole different perspective about the world. I can fly, I can be
Mm.
free. Nobody have to stop me anywhere. And eagle has a lot of qualities, like it's one of the resilient bird, and like it has higher lifespan. And it eagle actually don't go in groups like crows or pigeons. So
Mhm.
it is different. It is out of the box thinker, and it is always separate, and that's why it's like the king of the birds. And the reason why I told dolphin or shark is because I like sea, but I'm very scared of water. So, so I would like
Okay.
to go underwater as in fish next time. So
So, who's your go to person when you feel stuck?
I think it's myself. I also spend a little bit more time with my wife talking about more, and I also have a lot of personal mentors whom I talk to.
Mhm.
So mainly it'll be me if I get stuck. But I have mentors in different areas. For my business, I have a different mentor. For my career, I have a different mentor. For my job, I have a different mentor. I do talk to them, and my wife knows everything what I do in my life, and she's very well educated, and she has great mindset as well. and she gives me her perspective.
Okay. Any show or film that you have recently watched and would recommend?
You actually stumped me right there because I really don't watch a lot of TV or show,
Oh,
so I can't really comment on that. I just watch a lot of YouTube podcasts and whatnot. So yeah, I can't recommend anything. Maybe no, I can't recommend any shows or any.
what podcasts do you listen to if you can recommend those?
Yeah, I do listen to a lot of politics, geopolitics, and finance. Right now, what's happening in Canada in terms of inflation, how the economy is going up and down, what are the reasons? I listen about war, why war is happening in Russia, who's
Hmm.
contributing what, how is it impacting the rest of the world? And there is an YouTube called the Ranveer Show by Beer Biceps.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
So I listen to him a lot. He gives me a lot of different perspective. I listen to Sadhguru a lot. So
Okay. So, Arjun, if you had to eat just one meal for the rest of your life, what would it be?
one meal for the rest of the life, maybe it's pizza.
Okay. And I'm sure many listeners must be having the same answer. I'm sure about that. Okay. Lastly, Arjun, describe Canada in one word.
It's beautiful. It's beautiful and stressful.
Okay. So, on that note, without any stress, Arjun, thank you so much for being on the show and adding value to my listeners. Thank you so much.
Absolutely, Gurses. It's my pleasure, and I look forward to see you soon.
Hey, listener, thank you for making it to the end. I highly appreciate you listening the podcast. Subscribe to the podcast if you haven't as yet, and please share with your friends or anybody you think would like it. And like I always say, we encourage you to follow your heart, but also us on Instagram. The handle is mythicaccent. You can also leave us a review or write to us at hello@mythicaccent.com. So stay tuned and let's continue knowing each other beneath the accent.